This is information.
And now it's time for styling and profiling. Let's start with class and ID, two selectors that we'll be using constantly. Remember in the introductory video when we referred to HTML selectors? Those were just regular HTML tags like P and H1. We were able to assign styles to them in the CSS just by using P and H1. But these basic tags won't be able to cover all the possible page elements or layout choices you will need, so we have to have something extra. That something extra is class and ID. They're used as extra hooks to hang styles on them using CSS. Further down the line, we'll see that they're important also in JavaScript. We can assign any value we want to class or ID, which makes them very easy to use. Let's start with ID. Here are the rules you need to remember for ID. In a CSS file, we write the ID using a hash character in front of the name. Number 2, IDs are unique. Each element can have only one ID. Number 3, each page can only have one element with that ID. Here are the rules for class. In a CSS file, class is denoted by a period, also known as a full stop, then the value you give it. Number 2, class is not unique. You can use class on any number of elements. Number 3, you can use multiple classes on one element.
Whoa.
So if you had a style that you had to apply to multiple elements on a page, you use a class. And if you had another style that had to apply to one of those elements, but had to share all the rest of the other attributes, then you can add another class, like this. You don't even have to write a new class. You can just add a space after the original class, and there you go. There's one extra perk to using ID in your code. You can use them as a sort of navigation. If you have a link like this, then the browser will scroll down automatically to wherever this hash reviews ID is. The hash reviews is also called an anchor. This is why it is important that you keep your IDs unique. You may have seen in some long web pages a back-to-top link. This is an easy way to make a back-to-top link. Just make sure you put an ID somewhere at the top, and then make a link in your HTML with a hash character. Nesting in CSS is another efficiency thing that you should use. Take this piece of HTML, for example. We can write the CSS like this, with the P and H1 selectors nested inside the top ID using spaces. In this case, you don't need to create whole new classes or IDs for P and H1. You may find a reason you would for other content, but if you can avoid it, you should. Pseudo-class is added onto a selector to show some sort of relationship or some sort of state of the selector. What does this mean? Let's take links for an example. You have probably seen a link that was blue before you clicked it, turn purple after you clicked it. The purple that you saw is called the visited link, and it looks like this in the CSS. That original blue link you saw was written in CSS like this. We have two states, the unvisited link shown in blue, and the same link but visited in purple. There are still other pseudo-classes called dynamic pseudo-classes that apply to links when something happens. Active is used as the user clicks on a link. You may have seen a link turn red this way until it turns purple. Hover is used as the user hovers over a link, like with a mouse. We should note that this effect is largely lost on a touchscreen, unless you have a Galaxy phone or something like that. Focus is used for links and also commonly seen in forms. When you use the tab key to move around a form, sometimes you'll see the form field highlighted, or you'll see a small dotted line around the field, or something like that. It shows that you can interact with it, like clicking a link or entering text in a form field. When you use pseudo-classes in your code, you should write them in this order: link, visited, hover, focus, active.
And all circuits and memory banks are ready to begin processing the data which has been fed in. The actual computations are over in a matter of minutes, and then the results are recorded on magnetic tapes.
Shorthand. With shorthand, we can combine lines of CSS into simpler declarations. We can take this example for margin widths, write it in shorthand, and get this nice clean shorthand version, which is the same thing as the original. Remember that elements work with the box model, and that margins and padding start from the top of the box, then right, then bottom, then left. Remember that if you have just one number, then it is applied to all sides of the box. If you have two numbers, then the first one will apply to the top and bottom sides of the box, and the second one will apply to the right and left sides. If you have three numbers, then the second number will apply to the right and left. Borders can be combined into a shorthand as well. The properties of border width, border color, and border style can be combined like Voltron into one awesome declaration. So this long version becomes this. We can apply this width, color, style combo to border top or border right, and so on, if you need that kind of specificity. One other shorthand we can use is for fonts. We can combine font style, weight, size, line height, and font family like so. There are other shorthands, but we will deal with them later. It is important to know how specificity works in CSS. The simplest example is that if the selectors are the same, the last one takes precedence. So if we had this code, then the paragraphs would look like this, because the rule for the blue color came last. You wouldn't write this type of conflict on purpose anyway. But this type of so-called conflict you might write. In this case, you would think because the second P is last, then all the paragraph text would be blue. But the nested P inside the div element is more specific. So in this case, the div P is more specific, and that style gets applied to the paragraphs, like so.